Ladies and gentlemen, Tactical Advance here, and welcome back to some more Star Citizen. Now today we're going to be talking about multi-crew ship systems. Originally when I backed Star Citizen, there was not much information on it, and a lot of people asking questions. If you're flying through space, and you've got 3, 4, could even be 8, could even be 10 of your friends with you, what are they going to be doing? It could get rather boring, let's be honest. If you don't have anything to do in them seats and you're just sitting there and you're flying through deep space, it's going to get very, very boring for them other people with you. So then you're going to be in a situation, your friends are not going to come with you, basically. Star Citizen has made an announcement and they gave us a lot more detail on how the multi-crew system is going to actually work in the game. Now they've definitely acknowledged the fact that multi-crew is key, having physical roles, and I think the Karak actually brought that to their attention. I think it always existed, but I think that the Karak, because of people were saying that, I understand where they were going. If you're flying a ship that is designed for mapping jump ports, and you're flying the ship, does that then mean that the AI is going to be mapping for you, and you're just going to be flying? Or does it mean that you have to multitask? Then you bring into the question of what the other guy's doing, the AI guy. Yep, I see why, and it looks like they've rejigged it slightly now. They're bringing actually slightly different mechanics into the game, which I think is a good idea. It does look like quite a lot of stuff on face value, but the reality is you're going to have to keep these other people entertained. Otherwise, once again, the whole point of the game for me is to get some of your friends on board, go into deep space, fly around, and have fun. So I think having these extra roles is really key. Now the way that the panels are actually going to work is your actual display panels. You're going to have there's going to be a couple of variants. You're going to have crew stations where they are bespokely for a particular role. So let's say mapping jump ports. Or you could have other areas like loading missiles and all sorts of other roles as well. We're probably going to know more about them sort of roles once we get into the slightly larger, bigger ships. Now, one of the other modules that was actually announced as well, which was electronic warfare. So that's going to be interesting. Actually, we could talk a little bit of detail on exactly what these actually roles do. Now, the radar module, or the radar ops, is basically what you'll be doing in that role is you'll be identifying targets, you'll be focusing your radar to find potential hidden targets, you'll be flagging weak targets, and also you'll be scanning to identify subsystems and large ships. So that's sort of your primary role. As much as having a primary role, you will be able to look at key system information as well. And that sort of applies as well for someone who would be sitting, let's say for instance, in electronic warfare. Now in electronic warfare on the station, you get, basically it's like EMP, isn't it? What you're actually getting there, you can actually reduce the range of the opponent's systems. So by blasting some sort of EMP, I don't know if it's going to be a missile or what it's going to be yet, we'll have to wait and see. You can hinder the operations of their system. You can actually totally disable their system, forcing them to restart, I'm assuming restart the ship. One other option as well is to make the opponent more vulnerable. Now I don't know how you're actually going to pick all of them, because obviously if it was me, I'm more than likely going to pick disable all of his systems. Totally disable. But we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be hit and miss on all of them, or there's going to be some sort of mini game to do to achieve maybe one of them. We'll have to wait and see. Now, some of the other information about a view on some of these displays. There's quite a lot of information. And in some ways, when I first heard all of it, I was like, wow, that's quite a lot. And I thought, God, that's going to be a lot to learn. But in some ways, I think that fidelity and detail needs to be there inside the ships, because if we don't have that fidelity and detail, it's going to be like having a ship which you can fly and then everything else does nothing. The fact that all of these consoles that you're going to be walking past actually do things and actually show real factual information about the ship and the statistics, really cool. So we've got avionics and CPU. Now what you can do on this panel, you can actually control the CPU panel, and you can prioritize the CPU power in different areas. For instance, you could, let's say, move more CPU power to the targeting system. That doesn't mean you're going to be, it just more than likely means you're going to be targeting faster. Power and CPU usage is the next one. and that's tracking the current power and CPU that is distributed towards the system. So it's more of that's more statistical than an adjustment. Power management. Every single component and weapon fitted on a ship or a vessel will have power management that you can actually adjust, and this will be at a multi-crew level as well. Some of the actual displays, because they're going to make them sort of like, it's like having, you know, a 10-inch tablet. They're going to make some of them, or the majority of displays, that can be passed from seat to seat, sort of a stock display across all the ships, and that way you can sit in the bridge, you could pass controls over between two people in two different seats. Works well, particularly if someone gets up and goes somewhere as well. The next one we've got is navigation. Now here, what you would be doing is you will be planning routes to other star systems, or just plotting waypoints. Additional information will be made available, such as like fuel gauges, speed, planning your journey, and trying to identify how fuel efficient it's going to be. So that sounds really interesting. I think that's a basic navigational desk. Don't forget, there's obviously going to be a second one to that, which is going to be more than likely the map system. Now the next one was actually quite an interesting one, and I wasn't aware of this. I knew there was going to be an energy signature of the ship, but you're actually going to have a display or some statistical information on your physical emissions as well. Now that's really true, because I remember watching that was it the Freelancer video and in the advertising video, and they actually stated in the video that the engines have got low emissions, so the chance of you actually getting picked up. And I suppose this just follows on for that to some extent. Now what that means is it means that the electromagnetic and infrared emissions, so that will basically tell you how much or how less environmental noise you'll be producing. Doesn't actually say that you can reduce it or increase it, unless that means on physical thrust or defrust, or shut them off, one or the other. We'll have to wait and see. Maybe if you move power away from the engines, that you might reduce that electromagnetic and infrared noise. We'll have to wait and see that on that one. So them sort of panels are within themselves are going to be a full informational panel. But there's more, guys. We've got some default panels as well, some default sort of display modes. We've got heat, EM, electromagnetic, and also we got DM, which is damage. The heat basically tells you across the ship, you better look at a schematic of the ship, and it would tell you what components are generating the most heat, and it'd be highlighted by brighter or lighter with some sort of key system. The electromagnet, in this mode, the components that generate the most electromagnetic signature are bright, very much the same as the heat as well. And I think this is, by the looks of it, it's going to be very similar with the damage as well. By the looks of it, it will take on some similar displays as the single pilot's HUDs we're seeing in the game as well. That sort of damage state as well. So this sort of information other people are about to see. We've got a couple more as well, actually. We've got physical power as well, PW, their abbreviation. And this display will show you any power issues you're having on the ship, maybe with a physical component, or an item that may be risk of stalling or failing. Maybe it's just a pre-warning. Could be damaged. My interpretation from that, there's quite a lot there. And don't forget, this is actually work in progress. So some of this information you might have amalgamated onto one panel. If you take a look and pop over to the RSI site, they've got some images there of a Freelancer with one of the panels, and they do look pretty good. Now the panels are quite large panels, the ones that are actually seated in the rear compartment. How they will actually interact with you, I'm not 100% certain. The physical panels sit in front of you at the moment. I don't know if you can move that into your heads-up display, so you're just looking at a panel rather than actually looking at a panel in front of you. And the reason I say that, because I don't know how text is going to render on a screen in-game when you're looking at it. Is it going to look blocky? Is it going to look very defined and sharp? We'll have to wait and see how that pans out. But on the starting basis, this does open up other doors now. A lot of people do want to be a crewmate. They want to work on other ships. And at the same time, it's key for Star Citizen to make sure that there is opportunities for people coming into the game to work on larger ships. Now the only way they can do that is to physically have roles. I would say this is the start of something that is going to grow over the next months, years, and so on. As the bigger ships come out, which we've had a few already, more and more roles will be defined on them ships. And I think it's really cool. I mean, even for a small ship with maybe 4 people, you can still use AI. Obviously, the reward is going to be more than likely better having real people on board, because it's going to be fun. That's the whole point. It's going to be cooperative. That's sort of what you want to do on a sort of an online sort of multiplayer game, particularly in Star Citizen. That's something I'm looking forward to. So on that note, guys, let me know in the comments below. Do you want to be a crew member? And maybe give me a bit of an idea, what would you like to do? I mean, for instance, you could be loading missiles, you could be loading torpedoes, you could be even doing external repairs on the ship, because we know that's going to be a case. You can EVA and do small repairs on the exterior of the ship, which is just, you could see how that'd be quite funny, leaving one of your friends behind as you fly off and then realising he was EVAing. So on that note, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe. Bye now.